Well, good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall for this month's meeting of the Planning Commission. We're going to start out, as we have for about the last year, with Commissioner Lukey talking about one of the projects that has gone above and beyond in Sioux Falls, done more than kind of the minimum standards, and we've been trying to recognize those folks as doing a pretty good job. Commissioner Lukey?
This month we are recognizing Come and Go, located on 2 acres at the northwest corner of 69th Street and Southwestern Avenue, is Come and Go gas station and convenience store. Constructed in 2004, the gas station had very few buildings surrounding it. Today, a medical clinic, bank, restaurants, retail, and office accompany it. Traffic counts in the intersection average 20,000 vehicles per day. Access to the site is located at the north and west, which is shared access adjacent retail and restaurants. Downcast lighting on the site is provided for vehicles' navigation to the gas pumps. The attractive fixtures light the red awning and logo at the convenience store. With little context at the time of its construction, the convenience store includes a steep pitch, shingled roof, a mason exterior that complements commercial and residential structures surrounding it. The generous 50 feet setback from 69th and Southwestern Avenue provides for landscaping and a drainage swell. A monument sign at the corner reuses attractive building materials. This month, let's recognize Come and Go at 69th and Southwestern Avenue.
Thanks, Larry. I always thought that was the nicest gas station I go to in town, at least from the outside.
Yeah, it is.
And with that, we'll move on for the Planning Commission to approve the consent agenda. Those are the first 6 items on your agenda. These are kind of the non-controversial items that the Planning Commission will approve all in one shot unless there are some objections. I understand we have somebody who wants to talk about item number 3.
Yeah, we want to move number 3 to the regular agenda.
So we'll move that to the regular agenda. Is there anybody else that wanted to move any of those in the audience, those consent items, to the regular agenda? Planning Commission members, anybody want to move any items to the regular agenda?
We'll move number 3 to the regular agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
So before we do that, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now you want to make an amendment to move item 3 to the regular?
Make amendment to move item number 3 to the regular agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to move item 3 to the regular agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. And now we have the regular motion on the table to approve the consent agenda items as amended. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. So the consent agenda has been approved. If you were here for any of those items, you're free to leave and enjoy the rainy weather, or you can sure stay and watch the rest of the meeting. And with that, we will move on to the regular agenda. Denise, can you read those items for us, please? All right. So then can we have we'll have a motion to approve the regular agenda before we do that.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we need to read item 3 into it, or is it just? Then can we have an amendment to add item 3 to the regular agenda? No? No. All right, never mind. All in favor of the regular agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. All right, the regular agenda has been approved. And Denise, go for it.
Item 3 is a 2014-0706 rezone from RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to O Office District for allowable forms located at 4324 South Minnesota Avenue.
Good evening. I'm Diane DeCoyer with planning staff. The project before you, as Denise mentioned, is a rezone. It is currently zoned as single family, and there is a small portion of it that would be rezoned into office to provide some additional parking to advanced eye care. What is required there, because of the adjacency to what is left for that single family lot, would require a level B buffer yard to the south. Level B is a 15-foot total setback with a 2-foot high berm and 30 units of landscaping for each 100 lineal feet or fraction thereof for a buffer yard. As an option, a parking lot may encroach into the buffer yard, but not on the property line. And it does require the same number of landscape units. We did have quite a few phone calls on this. There was concern that the entire residential lot would be rezoned to office, and I think it is approximately 0.19 acres that will be incorporated. Right now, there is currently quite a few trees and vegetation there that would be taken down for the addition of this parking lot. For the most part, once people understood that it was a very small area and the remaining parcel would have to remain as single family, they were fairly satisfied with allowing this rezone to go through. So I think that's it, unless you have any other questions.
Thank you, Diane. Did any commission members have a question?
Just a quick one.
Yes, sir.
0.9 is the proposed parking lot, 0.9 acres?
0.19.
0.9. And then what does that leave for residential? How much?
I think what is left on that, I think it's just over an acre. Let me pull the site plan. 0.92, so just under an acre is left for that parcel. And we do show on the site plan that's shown on the screen there, with a proposed residence on that lot, it would still have access onto Harpole Drive. And again, they, has to remain as residential. There wouldn't be any other ingress or egress onto Minnesota for that residential.
To come off the side street there.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions for Diane? Thank you. Is the applicant here tonight?
Good evening, Dave Van Nieuwenhuizen. I'm an architect with Fegan Construction. I am here representing Jeff Brown, who is the owner of the property. He's out of town, so he asked me to attend. We've worked with Jeff Brown since about 2004, when I think the original clinic was built. We added on to it in 2010, I believe, so roughly 4 years ago. As you can see, the parking lot that is currently there, we're proposing to add on to it. He needs a little more additional parking. Uses it currently as staff parking. That way, most of his customers can come and go on the north side of his building. So this would allow for 14 additional parking spots. We've worked with the planning office in retaining that corner of Harpole and Minnesota Avenue as a residential lot. Dr. Brown purchased the lot directly to the east of that and built a home last year. So he owns quite a bit of property there. So, any questions that I can answer?
Thanks, David. Commissioners, questions?
Chair.
Yes, sir.
David, I remember last year, 2 years ago, when he put that parking lot on there, there was some neighborhood opposition at that time, but we had a real good discussion about saving some of those trees along Minnesota Avenue, and Jeff was good enough to say, hey, yeah, that's my intention. And I thought what he did there ended up being an awfully nice addition to his building. Certainly not an eyesore. Can we assume that that's his intention?
His intention is to maintain the aesthetic that is there currently, which would involve retaining as many trees as possible. The difficulty with this piece of property has always been that once you start to dig into those trees, a lot of them are not viable trees. They work great as kind of a mass clump, but once you start to thin them out, a lot of them are just kind of scrubby trees. So he does a really nice job of trying to retain the ones that are viable. As part of the previous project, he put the fence up, which was a requirement, and I think it works well. He hasn't had any, as far as I know, any complaints about that.
I drive by it every day. David,
I do too.
I thought they did a nice job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Anyone from the audience want to comment on item number 3? Please come up, sir, and give us your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Ray Wall, and I live at 504 West Bachelor Lane. We're just a short distance away from the proposed change. I guess my main concern that I'd like to raise tonight is signage on the property. And I guess what I would be asking is that whatever rights to signage they have now, that's what it's limited to. I guess it is an area, as you know, it's right at the edge of the residential business area, and so we like to maintain that nice residential look. I have no complaints with the business there now. It does look pretty nice. The promise to do whatever they can to retain the trees is good, but my concern is mainly any additional signage that they might have rights to when this if you approve this change. So that's what I would ask, is if you can restrict it to current whatever they have today. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Any questions for Ray before we let him go? Okay, thank you. Dan, do you want to, or Jeff?
I'm going to take this opportunity to go up on the soapbox a little bit. Jeffrey Schmidt, City Planning Office. With the new zoning ordinance, our signs are based upon our forms, which, as Planning Commission understands, is really the structure or the layout. So the bigger form you have, the more signage you get. So it's not by zoning district anymore, it's by the size of the form. And this form as a parking lot doesn't have a form, so there's very limited signages of all. They'll have directional signage to get on and off, but the office building would have signage, but the parking lot itself doesn't have signage because it doesn't have a form. If you built a great big super gas station, you'd have, if it was a little Caribou Coffee, so it's based upon the size of that structure. So this gentleman's absolutely correct, as he wants to control it by the size, and that's what we've done.
So there will be no, other than turn right here, there's no additional advertising sign.
Correct.
All right.
Yep.
Appreciate that, Jeff. Hopefully that answers your question. All right. Anybody else from the audience want to comment on item 3? If not, we'll look for commission action.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the rezone.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? All right. All in favor of item 3, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Item 3 passes.
Item 7 is an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at various locations, amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
Jason Bieber, planning staff. This is an application by the city staff. We have identified 5 parcels throughout the city that were incorrectly zoned with the passing of Shape Places zoning ordinance on April 16th of 2014. Just to quickly run through the 5 properties we have identified. First one is at the Timber Oak Windswept parcels, which are located south of West 85th Street and west of Southwestern Avenue. And they are going from single family to single family, but we're adding some conditions on lot sizes, setbacks, and things. The second one would be 400 South Sycamore Avenue. This is a parcel that's going from the I-1 Light Industrial District to the C4 Commercial Regional District, and that's strictly because the forms allowed within the I-1 zoning district do not accommodate a building of that size. Parcel number 3 is the West Ridge Addition, which is located on West 26th Street and South Mary Beth Avenue. These are parcels we've identified that are almost built out with twin homes, and the applicant or the builder does have an existing conditional use, so we are simply rezoning those to twin homes for them. 4 is Dakota Crossing, which is 81st Street and South Minnesota Avenue. That's a development that's been pretty close to built out with 4plexes. Shape Places had it zoned as RD1, so we are zoning it to RD2 to allow those 4plexes. And then 5 would be 6215 South Cliff Avenue, which is East 69th and South Cliff. That's the new Avera Clinic. The existing zoning only allows forms up to 25,000 square feet, and obviously that building's a little bit bigger than that. So I'm just trying to bring these parcels into compliance with the Shape Places zoning ordinance. and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have on those.
Questions?
Jason, can we expect to see more of this, or this is just incorrect zoning at the time?
Yep, these are the first ones we've identified. As we move through, obviously we make lists of ones that we feel were miszoned, and we will be bringing them forward every probably couple, 2, 3, 4 months, just depending on how many we get at a time. So, yep.
Thank you.
This is pretty much what we said we would do. Was we went through the new zoning ordinances that if there are changes that need to be made, we'll bring them forward, and it's kind of an evolving process to make sure we get it right.
Yep, correct.
Perfect. I applaud you guys for doing that. Other questions? Thank you. Anybody from the audience want to talk about item 7? If not, I'll look for commission action.
Move for approval on item number 7.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any commission discussion?
Well, I would agree with what you had said, Nick, that when the ordinance was passed, we know that it's not a perfect document at that point, and really is an evolving piece of ordinance that guides what we do in Sioux Falls. So I'm sure over the next 30 years there'll be a lot of ordinance adjustments.
That's a good thing.
Good thing.
Any other commission discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of item 7, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Item 7 passes.
Item 8 is a 2014-0701 conditional use permit in the I-1 Light Industrial District to construct an off-premise sign, a maximum of 672 square feet, located at 1501 North Minnesota Avenue.
Jason Bieber representing the planning staff. This is an application by Lamar Advertising for a conditional use permit in the I-1 Light Industrial District to construct an off-premise sign greater than 288 square feet. It is located at 1501 North Minnesota Avenue, just north of Russell Street. This general area currently has 4 off-premise billboard signs. The applicant is proposing to remove an existing 14 by 48 sign located at 1610 North Minnesota Avenue, then reconstruct the existing sign at 1501 North Minnesota Avenue and increase the size to the maximum allowed of 672 square feet. If the conditional use permit is approved, the total number of billboard signs within this area will be reduced from 4 to 3. Because the application for the existing land use is compatible with surrounding areas and the overall number of off-premise signs will be decreased by 1, staff does recommend approval of this conditional use. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions from commission members?
Jason, do we know at this point what type of sign it will be? Will it be one of those interactive ones, or is it just a flat?
That I'm not sure at this point, but I believe Phil from Lamar's here and he could probably answer that for you.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
Thank you. If the applicant is here.
Good evening. Phil Westro with Lamar. To answer your question, it will be a back-to-back static sign, non-digital. And how we came to this point was the landowner, Gene Jones Jr., we have a board, a 1448 billboard in front of his property. He came to us and asked if we could possibly move it across the street. Just for, it's right in front of his building. It's a beautiful building, and he asked if we could comply with that. And I said, sure, we would go through the process and see if it was allowed. So what we're intending to do is move the current 1448 structure in front of his building across the street where we have a current poster unit, which is a smaller billboard, a 10.6 by 22. That will be removed. We'll replace that with the 1448 that's currently in front of his business, thus decreasing from 4 to 3. So the face will not change. The sign will stay the same size, 40 feet tall. But basically what we're doing is reducing it from 4 to 3.
All right. Thank you, Phil. Any questions? All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Anybody from the audience want to comment on item 8? With that, I'll look for commission action.
Move for approval on item number 8.
I'll second that.
Have a motion in a couple seconds. Any commission discussion? All right. All in favor of item 8, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Item 8 passes.
Item 9 is a 2014-0702 conditional use permit in the O Office District to allow a place of worship and accessory off-site parking lot within 250 feet of a DD form located at 1609 West 11th Street.
Jason Bieber representing the planning staff. This is an application by John Engelhardt. They would like to convert the old Lutheran Social Services building into a place of worship. And further, they'll be changing the existing form from a BCF1, which is a business and community facility, to the NF1, a neighborhood facility form. It is located at 1609 West 11th Street. The existing building and parking areas appear to meet the required setbacks. The proposed use will require 45 parking spaces, and the applicant is indicating that there are 21 on-site spaces with the existing building, and then there are 25 off-site parking spaces to the north of 11th Street, just to the north of the building. Additional buffer yards will be required with this change in form. The existing parking lot is adjacent to DD forms on the north and east sides. Therefore, the level B buffer yard will be required with a 15-foot setback and 2-foot berm and 30 units of landscaping per 100 lineal feet. The proposed place of worship is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The additional buffer yard requirements will help buffer the proposed use from the neighboring residential properties to the north and east. The applicant should put in a request with the traffic engineer to have a crosswalk from the northwest corner of the property running north across West 11th Street and connecting to the existing sidewalk of the off-site parking lot, which should help with people going to the church to get to the parking lot the easiest way. Because the application has provided clarity to indicate location, nature, and extent of the work proposed, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit with the following condition. Submit a request to the traffic engineer to paint a crosswalk from the northwest corner of the property running north across West 11th Street and connecting to the existing sidewalk of the off-site parking lot. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hey, Jason, any questions? Sounds good. Is the applicant here?
Good evening. My name is John Engelhardt of Architectural Guild, 219 East 12th Street. I think Jason did a very admirable job in terms of the layout. Only one modification to the comments. The red circles that you see that are on the parking lot on the north side is that we are in fact going to be doing the buffering on the property to the south, that is on the south side of 11th Street. And we're going to be doing that on the north side as well as the east side. Other than that, it's very consistent. Obviously, as that is a former existing church for over 50 years. Memorial Lutheran was there. The Immigration Services purchased it, and then Ethiopian Orthodox Church purchased it from them. We were not involved in the sales or purchase of it, but now we want to desire it go back to a church in lieu of an office building. End of comments. Any questions you have?
John, when you talk about the other property and the buffer, you're talking in addition to the other parking lot area buffer?
There is some grass there, but what we are going to be doing is that is going to be our buffer. Our parking lot is at absolute minimum right now. So we are going to be removing some of the asphalt on the east side and going to change that with a berm and trees. And we're not going to want to do a fence because we feel strongly that in fact a fence is less than advantageous. So we're suggesting that we do the berm and trees and bushes along that side
For both the church parking lot and the off-site parking lot? No, just the church?
Just the church offsite, just the church parking lot. Well, both are church parking lots, but only the one that is contiguous to the church site,
Okay.
not the one across 11th Street. Any other questions or
Questions for John?
comments?
All right. Thank you. Jason, can you come back up? So the off-site parking is not required to have the same buffer, is that correct?
Yep, as we get into this and we run it through the zoning process, we've had some meetings with zoning on this. The off-site parking lot to the north of 11th Street, that form is not changing. It's an off-site parking lot going to an off-site parking lot. The existing office Lutheran Social Services is changing its form from BCF1 to the NF1 to allow the place of worship. So that's when the new buffering yards kick in for them.
Okay.
Yep.
So even though the off-site parking lot is near residential as well, it's just not required because it's not changed?
Because it's not a change, essentially a change in use under the old ordinance. Now, if they were creating that parking lot up there or modifying it or repaving it, then they would have to comply with that. But since they're not changing anything, it's not a change in use. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else want to comment on item number 9? I will look for commission action.
Make a motion to approve item number 9.
Second.
And I'm assuming that's with the one stipulation? I have the stipulation as Jason read, right?
Affirmative.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? It's a quiet group tonight.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor of item 9, please say yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. Item 9 carries.
Item 10, 2014-07-03 Conditional Use Permit for the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District for accessory alcohol within 100 feet of sensitive land uses located at 1902 South Minnesota Avenue.
Jason Bieber, planning staff. This is an application by Anna Santos for a conditional use in the C2 commercial neighborhood and streetcar district to allow an on-sale alcoholic beverage establishment within a certain distance of a sensitive use. The applicant is looking to put a wing stop between the existing Sanford profile to the north and the existing Jimmy John's to the south in there. And she's indicating that they would like to offer beer with people to get their wings. It is located at 1902 South Minnesota Avenue, which is located about 1 block west of the new Susan B. Anthony School. And the existing building appears to meet all setbacks. Additional parking will not be required because it's already an it's already an existing multi-tenant building. Because the application has provided clarity to indicate the location, nature, and extent of the work proposed, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Jason?
Yeah, Jason, I get more confused when I look at these books. This is an accessory use, right? Not a primary use?
It's accessory use to the restaurant, so therefore they have a 100-foot sent to a sensitive use, 100-foot.
Versus the principal use?
Yep, yep. If it was a bar, then it'd be on-sale alcohol. If it's a Hy-Vee that has wine tasting, that's accessory alcohol. This one is an accessory to the restaurant. They don't predict they're going to spend or sell a lot of beer. It's similar to Qdoba's and those where you could get a beer at the end or whatever the case is. But yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good evening. I'm Jordan Beacom. I'm representing Anna Santos tonight. Just to clarify on the sales of alcohol, we have looked into the amount that we are predicting to sell. The national average for Wingstop is between 5% and 10%, and this is the smallest market that we are currently opening in, and so our prediction so far is 5%.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Any questions? Are the wings good?
Yes.
All right.
They're great.
Good to know. You have, all right. Thank you. Anybody else from the audience want to comment on item number 10? Not, we'll look for commission action.
Move for approval of number 10, item 10.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Item 10 passes.
Item 11, a 2014-07-04 conditional use permit in the S2 Institutional Campus PUD and RS Single Family Residential Suburban for accessory off-site parking lot located at 2601 South Prairie Avenue.
Good evening, Diane DeCoyer, planning staff. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit in the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to allow off-site parking that is within 250 feet of a detached dwelling form. Due to construction of an addition to the Gilbert Science Center, the applicant will be eliminating 26 parking stalls and will utilize an existing shared parking lot that Our Savior's Lutheran Church owns to the south. The 26 stalls being eliminated on the west side of the Science Building will be used in the short term for construction staging, and when construction is complete, this area will be permanently modified for an outdoor patio and receiving area. Augustana College has a partnership in parking agreement with Our Saviors for the use of their lot. There is a pedestrian access from the parking lot across 33rd to the campus at the north. Because the application has provided clarity to indicate the location, nature, and extent of the work proposed, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit. I can answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Diane? All right, thank you, Diane. Is the applicant here?
Good evening, Frank Hughes, Augustana College, Sioux Falls. Diane did a great job of summarizing, and we appreciate the opportunity to come before you.
Thanks, Frank. Anybody have questions for Frank?
Frank, does this parking agreement extend into Sundays, I assume, when Our Saviors is using this lot at a peak time? Is that typically vacant from your staff's point of view on that
The
day?
agreement from Augustana's use of the lot would be Monday through Friday during the day. And then all weeknights and then weekends would be Our Savior's Lutheran's primary use of the parking lot. So we would offset each other.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Frank? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else want to comment on item 11? If not, we'll look for commission action.
I'd like to move to approve item number 11.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any commission discussion?
I particularly like this exchange of use between organizations. I'm glad to see that we're not going to have more flat surface parking. This is obviously a very well-established neighborhood, two well-established neighbors in the neighborhood. I think it's an absolute perfect solution. I commend them both for.
I agree with that, Jesse. Any other comments on or discussion on item 11? If not, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Item 11 carries.
Item 12, a 2014-07-10 conditional use permit in the S2 Institutional Campus Planned Unit Development to construct a parking lot within 250 feet of DD Farms located at the southwest corner of East 23rd Street and South Cliff Avenue.
Diane DeCoyer with planning staff again. The applicant tonight for this is Avera. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit in the S2 Institutional Campus PUD to provide a parking lot within 250 feet of a detached dwelling form. The property is currently vacant and is located south of East 23rd Street, north of East 24th Street, and west of South Cliff Avenue. To the east is an existing parking lot that is part of Avera's campus. Because two homes are located on the southeast corner, a level D buffer yard requires a 45-foot setback. The applicant has had contact with the property owner of the homes, and they have agreed to provide an alternative landscape plan that will be submitted to next month's Planning Commission. Pedestrian access from the parking lot to the hospital will be provided by sidewalks and a street crossing at 23rd Street. Because the application has provided clarity to indicate the location, nature, and extent of the work proposed, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit.
So Diane, this conditional use permit would be for the buffer yard as required in the zoning ordinance, and then if they want to modify that, like you said, they'd come back next month with an alternative plan, right?
The conditional use is to allow parking within 250 feet of a sensitive use, which is the homes, and they will come back and turn in an application for the alternative.
Okay,
Otherwise, they've got to provide that 45-foot setback.
If the alternative plan isn't, if they don't get approval on an alternative plan, they would need to do the required buffer yard, right?
Then they would need to do the required buffer yard.
Right.
Yep.
Thanks. Any other questions for Diane? All right. Thank you, Diane. Is the applicant here?
Good evening, everyone. Tom Bosch representing Avera McKinnon, and I am just here to answer any questions you may have and seek your approval.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions for Tom?
Just one, Tom. Where's Kenny?
What?
Kenny Gigley.
He's probably out on the golf course somewhere, Ken, so you know how that goes, so, yeah. I know.
It's
I
not
know.
to say
So,
that we
well,
don't
it's
like
never
you,
too
Tom,
dark
but-
for him, so.
Maybe he just still can't miss
All the
fair.
questions I had for him now are just completely out of my mind.
After your whole day, then.
All right, thanks, Tom. I'm
Okay,
not sure we
thanks,
have any
everyone.
questions. Anybody else want to comment on item 12? With that, I'll look for commission action.
Move for approval. Item number 12.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. Item 12 passes. And we come to the end of our agenda. I would look
Make
for
a motion for
to
agenda.
Adjourn.
Adjournment.
Thank you.
Second. You're anxious.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
We are adjourned.